Yeah. Smell like quarantine spirit, am I right? Yeah. Less stress, let your mind be free. Shift when the fog lift, you can finally see. There's a feedback loop that delay like an echo. Tune your frequency up and let go. Loud and clear is how you need to hear. And reason disappear when you feed the fear. There's a feedback loop, the warp like distortion. Keep your mind sharp like a swordsman.
Hey, my friend Gift.
Hello.
How's it going, man?
I'm alright, man. I'm alright. All things considering.
All things
considering.
Yeah, man. I know.
We're here.
We're here. Good night, everybody watching the Unashamed Truth podcast. Welcome to another episode number 14. We are welcome to the red zone. For those of you who are here in Montreal, who are now facing the lockdown like Gift and I are, we live on the island of Montreal, both of us. So we are heading into the second phase of the lockdown. Yeah. So it's we survived the first phase, and we were thinking that things were getting better and better, and little did we know.
I'll be curious, since Terry, you have little girls, are there special treats that you gotta stock up for the second round?
Yeah, so we've been doing our Costco runs and stuff like that, because the majority of our shopping we do at Costco,
Okay.
for like the stuff like snacks and those types of things, you know. So this weekend, my wife and I, man, we hit up Costco pretty hard on two occasions, Saturday and Sunday.
Oh,
And
all right.
yeah, man, to the tune of like $5, man. Yeah, because we in phase one, what we decided to do was we decided to prevent ourselves from like having to go out all the time. We would like try to stock up and at least buy about 2 weeks worth of food.
Right.
You know, so it works well for like stuff that's, you know, canned or packaged goods, but then the fresh produce is the thing that you have to go to the stores more often for.
Okay.
And one thing I'm a little concerned about is whether or not there's going to be like a question of scarcity at some point, you know. Right. So I'm trying not to overthink it. We we did laugh though, because at one point last weekend, I was I was in the washroom and I'm looking around. I'm like, oh man, there's like no more toilet paper, you know. So I was like, hey Favi, do we have any more toilet paper? And the beads of sweat started running down my forehead, you know. And luckily though, like I wasn't in a position where I needed toilet paper. I'll put it that way, to keep it clean.
Which is why I've been telling people to invest in bidets, man.
Yo, seriously, I'm really.
It's hot, bro.
Yo, you know that I get those ads on my Facebook all the time for the Tushy, and I'm starting to think I should, and especially with my bathroom being renovated right now downstairs, I'm like, yo, maybe I should buy a bidet for real.
Tell you, man.
I have all the plumbing for it ready too. On top of that, so that's it. Yeah, and that's another thing that's stressing us, man, is because like with the fact that we have like work ongoing at the house. Are we going to finish in time, you know? And our handyman that's doing the work, he's a cool guy, you know, he comes by, but the problem is that he'll disappear on you. Like, so he comes by, he'll do his work, and he's like a machine, man. He's here morning till end of day. Dude doesn't stop. He's like, he keeps going and going and going. But the problem is that sometimes he'll be like overwhelmed with another client who's calling and trying to get a hold of him. So then he'll disappear for a week on you, which was the case last week. Last week he didn't show, and Fabi and I were freaking out a little bit because we knew that things were going to get to the red phase, you know. So yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So how what are you doing to prepare yourself for phase two?
Yo, man, I'm stocking up on some of my treats. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a chips guy. I love chips.
Okay.
I'm gonna stock up some chips and some Skittles.
Okay. Okay.
And you gotta have some vino too. You know what I mean?
A little bit of vino, yeah.
A little bit of vino. You know what I'm saying? So those are essentials.
Yo, Gift, it's so funny because all the things you're stocking up are the things I'm trying to cut out of my diet, bro. No, seriously, like, so one thing, and we should do an episode about this. But one thing I'm trying to be careful of and be mindful of is that I do have like some underlying conditions that I worry a little bit about. Like I do have high blood pressure.
Okay.
And with what you're hearing in the news, and especially how COVID is affecting Black people, I'm worried about that, so like I really gotta get that under control and stuff. So like I've been really trying to like cut back on like my sugar intake and everything like that. And a few weeks ago when we were supposed to have a podcast, but like I kind of canceled last minute, it's because I decided to run out to the Saint Lazare area and pick up some gym equipment from a lady that was selling. Yeah, so look, man, like I'll show you. This is for you viewers at home. For those of you who are going to probably listen to this podcast and not necessarily watch it. Yeah, so I have my little weight set that I'm showing here, and I have like my little gym mats set up. Yeah, man. So, and like the next plan is to buy a bench, so that I can really start doing like bench presses and stuff like that properly. And Maybe doesn't know this yet, but I would like to buy a squat rack so that when I do squats and stuff like that, and I got to get some plates. Right now, the set of weights I bought are okay for like me, who's like coming out of an extremely sedentary period, and who needs to get back into shape. But like I'm gonna outgrow my weights in like no time, because just naturally, like I trained on and off, for like quite a few years. So like it doesn't take long for me to kind of get back to a place where I'm like, okay, I can push myself further,
Okay.
So so I gotta I've definitely got to invest in some more weights soon, but not break the bank.
Respect, man. Respect. All the best.
Thanks.
At least you're not going to be getting that corona flab, you know what I mean?
Well, that's it. I'm trying not to catch the actual 19 part of the COVID. I don't know if COVID itself is, I don't know. Let's pray that it doesn't happen, But man, let's I got to make sure I stay in shape and everything. I got little kids to take care of and stuff, and my parents to look after too.
Yeah.
So
that's good, man. Good. No, good on you, man. That's awesome.
Thanks, man. Doing my best. And then, and also the thing about it too is just I find with the mental health aspect of it too, it's funny, man, because growing up, I was a kid. I used to bike. I used to play outside, man. From morning till end of day, my parents wouldn't see me. Like I was outside. I was playing. I was doing all kinds of sports. Never played on teams, but I just like to be active, And like even all summer, I've been like itching to go on hikes and stuff like that. And just with the move, it wasn't really possible. I did one little mini hike with the girls. But I find that I'm in so much of a better mental state when I have the opportunity to do some work. And I get very envious when I see people that do like physical labor where they're able to walk around and everything like that. Because like, man, I feel like a form of kind of almost corporate slavery is being tied to your desk,
Yeah.
And I need that movement aspect. I'm realizing more and more as I'm getting older.
Yeah.
So.
Like at work across into the other building, there's this guy who had like a walking standing desk.
Yeah.
Like in another building, right in across from my office, and I'll see the guy. Unfortunately, like he would be like half naked, and he has the blind, and he's like working on the computer.
Yeah.
Like jogging. I was like, what?
Yo.
Like, you've made it when you have like a walking standing desk, man.
Yeah, well, listen, my desk is high enough at the apartment because at the house, because we had it raised, right? So it's actually almost the height of a counter. It's like almost standard countertop height, right? But that's for me to sit because at 6'5", my legs are, and I'm disproportionate. So I actually have a very short torso compared to my legs. So everybody laughs at me because when I'm sitting down, right, like at a table for dinner or something like that, people look at me and they're like, oh, he's not that tall. And then when I stand up, my legs make me so much taller than everybody else, But so with that being said, like my desk is tall enough actually that sometimes I can just like barely hunch over a little bit and stand and type, you know. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for people that have the treadmill and everything going, you know.
Dude, the guy would go for an hour, man, and I'll be like, what?
Yeah, but man, you know what's the best part of this whole working from home thing is when you have those meetings where you know you don't need to participate because I have because I have my gym equipment back here. Sometimes I'm just like, yo, just doing reps, like doing bench press, concentrated curls, and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. That's the beauty of it. And even Fabi, sometimes she'll come by and she's like, "Oh, I need you to set the weights at 5 pounds for me so I can do some curls." I'm like, "Okay, cool," you know. So
That's
that's
awesome.
it. Yeah, yeah. But like, I'm man, compared to a lot of my colleagues, I'm super lazy, bro. Because like, I have colleagues that like, come rain, sleet, or snow, they're at the gym every day, and for them, they're having a hard time with the lockdown, especially the first part before the gyms opened.
Right.
Because it's like they didn't have any room to do anything, you know what I mean? It's like they're just kind of stuck at home, and all their workout routines and workout plans and all that stuff kind of just went by the wayside, you know.
Yeah.
So that's it.
That's rough.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
So we have to really look after each other, especially in like with, you know, all the conditions of like being the red zone now, you know. So like visiting family is going to become almost impossible, you know, unless you have like a really good reason to, I guess. And all that type of stuff, you know, and like hopefully it doesn't get to the point where they start shutting down schools, because even though personally I don't think schools really should be open with given the fact that I feel like they haven't taken proper precautions for the schools. But you know, they're open, and I understand for a lot of people there's no choice, otherwise they wouldn't have anybody to look after the kids. And I think in a sense kind of having them in school helps maybe in a weird way control things a bit, because what I was noticing is like before we moved, we had a family that lived upstairs, and the parents were both out during the day because they were essential workers, and their kids would have their friends over, and their friends would, you know, just hang out and stuff like that upstairs. And it's like, well, they're not really social distancing, you know. And every day the guy's girlfriend would come by because like they were high school age, like she would, you know, hop in an Uber and come over and stuff, you know.
Snap, man. Yeah.
So
times, man. Yeah.
That's it. I think one of the good things I noticed when I was reading over the conditions for this red phase is because I know a lot of single people have been just dying, man, to like be able to see their SOs, you know, their significant others.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that the government made provision at least.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? This right now, you know, it's down to like one person at a time.
Yeah.
Which is good, you know. Otherwise, you know, I don't know if you've seen those memes, man. Like, there was a meme like the guy's like in a couch, like slouched, and like, I can't die single.
Yeah, no, but for real, honestly, like, and my heart goes out to a lot of people right now, because like for a lot of people that are dating and, you know, had other projects ongoing that they were like, okay, you know, I'm gonna wait till I'm finished this, and then I'm gonna be open to dating, or you know, when I can set this thing aside. And man, for a lot of people, it's a rough period, you know. So, you know, already you have like different concerns, and then on top of that, like, you know, your interaction is all online and everything like that. So it's hard to gauge, and it's tough, man.
To know where the person has been, and
yeah. Now the thing is, I hope people are gonna get off of Tinder though and stuff like that, because I mean, if you have a steady boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, like it's cool, you know. But if if you know, if it's a revolving door, that's no better.
It's gonna be rough.
For real.
But you know, stay safe, people. Stay safe.
Yeah, for real. We need you guys to stay safe, and let's get through this together. And hopefully beat this thing, man, because you know, it's scary to see how far things went the first phase, and especially when you look at like Italy and France and how bad it was over there, you know.
I mean, it's possible, right? When we look at, you know, countries like Australia and New Zealand, they've done a pretty good job, you know, in really like flattening the curve, you know, and Quebec, we haven't done such a great job from
Yeah.
the get-go, right? It's like right now, it's like the fire, the building is on fire, and you're trying to get like a garden hose to put down the fire. That's exactly what's happening right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for real. And okay, so what do you think makes the difference? You know, what do you think makes it that another country would have done better than, like, say, how we're doing here? Because, like, if we were to put things on a scale, we're not as bad as the States, but I feel like there's a potential that we could be.
Of course. I think there is a lack of transparency in terms of like clear instructions on like the different levels we're going through and what is expected, and also projection of the next levels on what are the instructions, what's going to be expected from the public. Because if you look at the summer, throughout the summer, we didn't really have much report on what was happening with
They kept things very quiet.
You know, it was as if like, oh, is it zero? I mean, we all knew it wasn't zero, but there was no update on what was going on. So of course, like people are people. Some people are gonna be reckless, you know, and some people who are just like living in La La Land, they're just gonna, you know, YOLO, it's sort of lifestyle, you know.
I agree, and that's the thing, man. I wonder, do you think that maybe, okay, because, you know, Quebec is always the province that just is different than the rest of provinces.
Yeah.
And do you think that our not our reputation, well, our reputation, for lack of a better term, do you think that plays a contributing factor?
Our reputation as a society?
Well, as a society that kind of tries to be countercurrent unnecessarily sometimes.
Maybe partly, but I think the majority of it has to do with leadership.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And to complement what you're saying, I think an example of that, a very good example, is this decision whether or not to use that COVID app or not, right? Like, you know, I am happy to see today that they've said apparently that they're going to use this COVID app that the federal government has put in place to help with contact tracing. And, you know, I've sat in a few circles where I've heard people have discussions as to whether or not they agree with this app, and people were freaking out because it automatically, on the updates on your phone, on the updates on your phone, it said, oh, you know, like, turn this on if you want the contact tracing features of various apps to work or not. And you know, it made me chuckle. And at one point I kind of had to like speak out in frustration a bit, because it was like, well, look, we have this technology, right? We have these smartphones, we have these tablets, we have all this stuff that syncs with all kinds of cloud, blah, 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 right? And we all have these things. This technology is knocking about. If I have a drawer of all my old iPhones that if I was to open it, like, you'd find probably four phones, my past 4 phones in it, okay? We have this technology, and for some reason, when it's actually being applied or used in a way that could be beneficial to us, like, we tend to say, oh my gosh, that's too invasive, right? Meanwhile, like, I mean, people are posting about like every single grain of rice on their plate, you know what I mean? And every like single thing, they have all their credit card numbers and stuff like that stored in their phone, you know, and it's just like, well, what do you think? Like, to me,
I'm going to stir up some stuff right now.
Okay, let's go. Good.
Like, yes, we are, everyone who owns a smartphone or has some form of technology, there's not much privacy involved, right? Like, yes, but when you open, this is the thing, it's like when you crack open the window a little bit, you're letting the boogeyman come into your bedroom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that's
I get you.
Exactly what's happening with the government, bro. I'm not trying to sound like a tinfoil person or conspiracy theorist, you know what I'm saying? But like, I don't know, man. Like, yes, I have all these technologies too, but will I download the app? I don't know. I'm just gonna do my part as a citizen. You know what I'm saying? Just stay safe and, stay home, do my thing, eat my Skittles, eat my chips, don't see nobody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll do my part. It's my responsibility. I don't need the app, bro. I don't need, I get it, but dude, like how many attempts have been made for the government to try to invade in our privacy?
Yeah, I get you. It's true.
Fast.
It's true.
Like, this is like a perfect opportunity. Sorry, folks, this is sounding very conspiracy theorish, but there was
but gift, man, look, man, if you read the fine print, like, and this is the point that I made, right?
Yeah.
When you read the fine print, okay, you say you get a new phone, you order a new phone from Apple or from Samsung, right? You get the phone, okay, you're all excited, you decide whether or not you want to peel off the plastic sticker, and then, you turn it on for the first time and you're all razzled and dazzled by the new appearance of your phone and blah, 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 right? And then the first thing everybody does is they skip over the terms and conditions, right? And they just go ahead and update the iOS, install their apps, sync with their other phone profile and all this stuff, right? And in skipping those terms and conditions, okay, you're automatically saying yes to this stuff. And GIF, look, I can't even. Okay, look, man, I'm gonna mess up my setup a little bit here. Okay, I'm kind of bootleg, but like, I have my box from my tablet that I bought this summer. Okay, and look here. I'm gonna hide the serial number so that nobody tries to like rip me off or anything like that. Okay, but look at this logo here, FCC.
Yeah.
Right? Who controls the FCC, bro? Right? Like, I'm sorry, but every cell tower that you use to be able to make a phone call belongs, like, if you trace back the paperwork, man, it goes to the government. You know what I mean? Like, all these things are federally owned, man. And like,
so you're saying we're screwed either way? I'm
saying you're screwed either way. Now, here's just
like leave the door unlocked.
I'm not saying no. I'm not saying that. Guys. I'm not saying may as well leave the door unlocked. What I'm saying is, sometimes we need to pull our heads out of our own asses about certain things. Okay, sorry, I tried to find a better way to say it, bro, and I just look, I couldn't find a better way. The truth of the matter is that I think it's one of those situations where we have to, as human beings, decide. Right now, this is one of those pivotal moments where we have to say, what can we do to get ourselves out of this? All of us, okay, want to get to a point where we can go and see our friends. We can go to our favorite restaurants. We could go to things we like to do, like concerts and all that stuff. All of us want to get back to it. But the problem is that the longer we all like divide ourselves over these like little silly things and stupid things, the more we're going to put ourselves in a position, in my opinion, where we don't progress and we don't get out of it. Like, I want to get out of this thing too, bro. I'm tired of being at home. I love my wife and kids and I love being with my family, but like, I need a sense of normalcy too. I need to get out. Like, so many times I'm looking at my car in the driveway and I'm like, I need to just get in my car and go for a drive to just get away for a little bit and just see something different. I miss downtown. I hate the commute, but I loved being downtown. You know what I mean? I love downtown during the summer. I miss my coffee spot, man, where I would go and, had, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I used to go to this coffee shop where like they would literally have like French expats like come and work, you know what I mean? And like when I was single, bro, oh man, the cuties that used to be there, man. And I miss, like I know the staff.
Bobby, are you listening?
I've been going. She knows it, but at least out of it, she'll get like a nice pastry whenever she's with me downtown, But like, I would miss just the interaction with people and, the smile of the person that's serving you your coffee and, like, hey, how's it going? And hang in there, as you get, like those things, we all miss them, but, and man, like, I'm tired of seeing my neighbors every day. And especially because my neighbors are all retirees, bro. So they're all like, huh, you're not back at work yet? Like, and I think a lot of them probably think like maybe I'm not working. I'm like, no. Like, if you come in my house, I got a whole bunch of gear from the office.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, sure. That's
Yeah.
true.
So we all want to get back to it, but we have to work collaboratively. And what I find that this situation is showing us is, as human beings, we don't work well together.
That's true. Now, my question to you is, do you think this second wave is going to be worse than the first one?
Well, historically, if you look at the Spanish flu, it was worse. And no, okay, I got to do some fact checking on some things that I had seen, but like I had seen some memes, or not memes, but like, posts on the internet about how there were anti-maskers back then too, and and everything.
Okay.
I think it's a shame that we are in a more advanced age, but we as human beings have not changed. So I think that it has the potential to be worse, and especially the demographic that they're saying that it could affect more is more our age group. You know what I mean? And especially with it circulating in schools, like I'm, fortunate enough to not have my kids in elementary school yet, but they're saying with what could happen in schools and stuff like that is that it's going to come home to parents, and parents are going to be affected. So it's going to be a younger generation. Now, not that I was any happier when it was an older age category or demographic, but I just think that now it has the potential to be more widespread. And my concern is that employers will be more reluctant to close down a second time. And like already for bars and restaurants, I have a hard time seeing how they're going to accept that they'll have to close down again. I mean, they have kind of no choice. I'm assuming the government would probably lock them, like close them for good if they persisted, if they decided to keep operations as normal. But I feel that our ignorance or our reluctance to abide by the rules is what's going to be our downfall if we're not careful.
Yeah. I mean, it's already quite insane. I was reading a few days ago on the news that some school boards have actually asked teachers who are retired to come back.
They did the same thing to nurses. They asked retired nurses to come out of retirement and come back to the hospitals. I have a friend from high school. Her mom did that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's wow. It's scary, man.
It is. It's scary, and especially because of the fact that, like, I know. Okay, I live sometimes in a utopian world in my mind where, like, you start to say to yourself, like, what is so important that we can't shut things down to let this pass and keep only what's absolutely essential running, so that we can have a chance to kick this thing, But unfortunately, the same logic that applies kind of at a corporate level is what is applying here. And people are looking at it as it's just numbers, right? Like the company, the CEO doesn't care about that guy who just lost his job, right? Like, because they lost a project or they lost something, the CEO doesn't care about that guy. To him, it's just, you're just an employee number, right? And to a lot of people, and even to some government bodies, it almost feels like you're just a social security number. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. I feel that it's destructive. When we start to reduce people to a series of digits, that's very destructive. But that's just my opinion. And
that's scary.
Yeah.
But like, I was just like reading a little bit on like what like New Zealand did and why they were successful. Is that when the cases started? Yeah.
The Prime Minister of New Zealand is a badass. She's a badass, a total badass. And I heard what she did. Apparently, sorry. Okay, I'll let you ask your question, and I'll share this story that I read that I found hilarious.
Like when it started, right? They had about like 1,500 cases or so, and like 22 deaths. Okay, and they went drastic. Like they locked down immediately. No international flights. Nothing. And they just flattened that. Like they almost had 0 cases.
Yeah.
Within 5 weeks.
At one point during the summer, they had like one case, bro.
Yeah.
One case, you know?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is this, is that like, just so there was one of their ministers, I don't know his name, one of them, their health minister though, had been caught out joyriding with his family. He went on a bike ride with the kids. Okay. Yo, she's like she got so upset. Okay. She contacted him immediately when he was one of the people that was apprehended, you know, out and about when he shouldn't have been. And she's like, the only reason why I'm not firing you now is because there's a pandemic.
Oh,
If it wasn't for the pandemic, trust me, you'd be out of a job.
Oh my. Respect.
Bro, honestly, because that's what it takes. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
If you look at her from what I can tell, from what I read, nobody's saying she's a dictator. Nobody's saying she's an evil person. She did what was best for the sake of the people in New Zealand. You know what I mean? And that's what it takes here. And unfortunately, because of all the nonsense already going on with, you know, already going on with all the racism and all the stuff that's going on in the United States and also in Canada, let's not ignore that there's racism going on here, that there's racial injustice, social injustice going on here.
Yeah, we're subject to that too, man.
Yeah, you know, with all those things going on, it's hard to also have to manage a pandemic, you know, and especially when you look at the type of leadership that exists in some places where people don't believe, you know, that this is something real, you know, and then you have people that are just outright denying science, you know what I mean? Like,
that's another thing, right?
Yeah.
That's another thing.
Like I've been seeing kind of both sides of what's been going on, even with like churches, bro. Yeah. And I've been having a hard time, you know, because like I understand, you know, like you want to keep your church open and available, and the church is a great place. There's a lot of resources for people who may have mental health issues and stuff like that, and who need support. And a lot of people without their church body and church family probably don't have anybody. You know, that's the biggest. I'll be honest with you. At the low parts of like when I've, you know, been in my faith and stuff like that, the sense of community was like oftentimes the one thing that I just appreciated about the church. I could care nothing. Trust me, it had so little to do with the pastor and what they're preaching about. Like, but it was just like, I know I'm going to go to the church and see this or that person, you know?
Yeah.
And so I understand, you know, but at the same time too, I think it's irresponsible for the church to say we need bodies inside of our building, you know? Yeah. And because you're not closing bars, you know, we should be allowed to be open too. Right. And the issue that I have with that is, well, okay, so many times you try to distance yourself from a bar, and, you know, and the people who go to a bar, and you try to distance yourself from the people who go to clubs and stuff like that. Right. So if at one point you want to take the moral high ground and look down on these people, but then you're saying, I want the same benefits as them. Right. And especially when you consider what the Bible talks about, you know, obeying the laws of the land and blah, 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 and all these things, right? Like, you know, need I say more?
No, for sure. I mean, like, the churches need to, I mean, we already have technology. They're already doing remote church, you know, just continue with that. You know, folks will still teach your grandma how to use the Twitter, you know, teach your grandma how to use the chat on the YouTube, you know what I mean?
Bro, it's because here's the problem, bro. The problem is that you're teaching them how to access this service on Facebook. You're teaching them how to access the service on YouTube. You're not teaching them how to access PayPal. You're not.
You know what I mean?
You know, the problem is that not enough seniors are being taught how to access PayPal to send their tithes in.
I blame it on the children. The children should have the patience, teach their parents how to use the interwebs.
That's it. You got to show your parents how to use the interwebs.
You know what I mean?
For real. Yeah.
But
hey, on the topic of church gift, I got a question for you.
Oh Lord.
I want to, you know, let's take this off of the beaten path.
We respect to voluntary.
No, bro, I'm not following no script tonight.
Okay, we still have things to talk about.
I want to know what your thoughts are.
I don't have no thoughts. I have no opinion
on this story here that I'm sharing with you. So, evangelical pastor and mother of 3 comes out as bisexual, then quits the church and joins OnlyFans. Bro, I know that we didn't think about talking about this in the docket, but I want to know what your opinions are on this subject, because I saw this and I'm just like, wow.
It's complicated, man. It's complicated for me to really give. I don't know her story, right? I don't know like what's been going on in her life, and like what we gotta be like also sensitive to is like people go through a lot of trauma throughout this, and I don't know what's her story. I can't really give an answer until I have more information.
Okay, that's fair. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. That was a political answer. That was the good,
It's
that's
facts,
it's a politician.
It's facts.
Okay.
I need to read up on it more so that I can have a complete thought process on what I think about that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But back to the topic.
Back to the topic. Oh, you're okay. Back to the topic I had.
Topic here.
Okay.
What were your thoughts? Just shifting away a little bit from COVID, but I want to know, last week, how were you feeling with regards to what happened to our dear sister, Breonna Taylor's case? You know what I mean? I'm vexed.
Yeah.
I am vexed, but I'm just curious to know what was your reaction? How did you feel? Were you expecting those results? What was going through your mind?
Okay. Well, to put it frankly, I hoped for a different outcome. I didn't expect a different outcome. I think so. I've listened to a lot of interviews, not specifically about this case, but a lot of interviews with former DAs who've explained kind of what happens in these cases and why it is that these cases take the turn that they often do. So, first of all, I think one thing that's important to look at is a lot of people, the feeling we have is she was murdered. Okay, yeah. That's the narrative. That's the ticker. That's the that's Sorry.
And there was no charge.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. She was murdered, and there was no charge. That's the sentiment. Okay.
White folks got the charge.
And to be honest with you, I think that may have even been maybe a sentiment that we've even expressed, like how we felt about the situation in earlier episodes of this podcast. Now, the reality, though, right, is there's a certain set of criteria that has to be met for this to be classified as a murder. Okay. So though we feel this is a murder, to us, she was murdered. Okay. To the court and judicial systems, this is not a murder. So it's not gonna, if you try to throw a murder charge at these cops, it's not gonna stick because, from my understanding, I'm not at all an expert in law or nothing like that. So don't take me for cash, you can, honestly. But my understanding is that for this to be classified as a murder, she would have, the cop would have to have intentionally wanted to say, said, Breonna, you're going to get what's coming to you.
But there's also manslaughter, right?
It's true.
You could have been charged for manslaughter.
That's it. And there's different criteria for manslaughter 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 right? And and stuff like that. And then, you know, I don't know, but I'm assuming there should even probably be like, you know, like even like criminal negligence, right? That could apply, maybe should have applied or something like that. So that's why I say that I didn't expect differently kind of than what happened. I'm sad. I'm very sad. I'm very sad for Brianna. I'm very sad, especially at the lengths that people have gone to on both sides to use this situation with Brianna as a diving board for other things. You know, so I think that's kind of what I have a hard time with, you know. You Gift, how did you feel when you learned the news?
I was honestly upset. I was really upset because, you know, she didn't even get, there wasn't even any one charge, you know, for killing her. There wasn't nothing, zero. But the neighbors, they got something, right? And
yeah.
what's that? Is it called wonton? What's it called?
Wonton, yeah. So, yo, bro.
Do you mind explaining that a little bit? What that is, just for folks, like what that refers to, wanton endangerment.
So
because the person was charged on 3 charges on wanton endangerment. Yeah.
So first of all, when I heard wonton, it reminded me of how much I'm craving Chinese food because I want some wonton soup.
That's racist.
No, I'm saying I want no, bro. It's not racist. I'm just saying the words sound similar, right? And it just triggered my memory towards wonton soup, man. That was.
Pray for you, man.
Pray for me, please, for real. One of the first restaurants I want to go to is Sushi Palace when it opens. Man. Awesome. Sushi Palace, I miss that place. Anyways,
let's focus.
Sorry, let's focus. I'm hungry too, bro. So, the thing. So, from my understanding, from what I've read about what this wonton means, is it's just a way of saying it's like it's a synonym for reckless. So basically, that he recklessly fired his firearm.
Right.
And that act could cause harm to somebody.
Right.
Now, one of the things that I also read when I was kind of just researching this, but it seems as though the fact that he put the neighbors at risk was something that was considered by the court. But oddly enough,
not at risk.
So exactly. Oddly enough, Brianna was not at risk. Okay. A black neighbor who was also who he shot into their house was not considered in this wanton thing. Okay. Yeah. But a set of other neighbors who happened to be white that was the only, I think, charge that kind of stuck a little bit with the court. So it makes you question, like, okay, so like, what about like the black people that were affected by this? Because it was not just, you know, it was white people, but there were also black people affected. I mean, nobody more than Brianna herself, but at least the black neighbors. If you're gonna ignore what happened to her, aren't you at least gonna take care of what happened to the other neighbors? Because on one side you did it, so what about the other side?
Yeah.
And apparently that didn't seem to stick, you know. So no neighbors were injured, but imagine that the neighbors who were not injured still somehow got more justice than Brianna, who lost her life.
If they were injured, I guarantee you would have got life in prison. I guarantee you. If they were injured, yes. Because right now they're saying that if he's convicted on all 3 charges of the wanton endangerment, then he could possibly get 15 years in prison. Yeah,
which is nuts. Which is, I mean, no.
There's no mention about Brianna.
Yeah, you know, it's like it's almost as if they've done everything in their power to exclude her from being the center of what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, she's the person who lost her life, you know, and none of the neighbors were injured and stuff like that, and that's the thing that I find crazy about it. And you know, his lawyer, one of the things also that I read that surprised me was that apparently his lawyer was trying to petition for him to be able to keep his firearm because he's getting death threats.
Oh gosh.
You know what I mean? And it's like,
did they grant that? I hope they didn't grant that.
No, it wasn't granted. It wasn't granted. But I just find that crazy that like his lawyer can have the nerve to ask, because now, given the fact that he's under trial, he's not allowed to have access to weapons or anything like that. It's a common thing, from what I understand about the legal system. You know, and the thing about it too that's crazy is that so there's been a lot of deviation from like standard practices. You know, so like one thing that, it's funny because I was watching a movie this past weekend, but one thing that I've heard former military people say that is so shocking to them is in these cases, right? What they have a hard time grasping is you are to administer care. Okay, in the military, imagine this. Okay, in the military, you're fighting overseas in Afghanistan, in Iraq, Iran, whatever. Okay, I'm not talking about whether or not I agree or disagree with those wars. Okay, that subject is aside. However, if I'm in the military, okay, and I have to, and I engage in battle with another person, okay, that could be labeled as a part of a terrorist organization, even, or whatever. I have to administer care to that person. I can't just shoot, kill, and walk away. You're supposed to administer care. That's a part of the, I think it's a part of like the Geneva Convention or something crazy like that. And these conditions exist for police officers as well too.
Right.
But apparently, it seems like from reports, and I have to fact check this just to make sure, because I've been seeing a lot of articles coming out like fact checking the facts, because there's been a lot of misinformation around the case. Yeah. But if they did not administer care, that would be outside of their standard practice. Another thing that's outside of standard practice.
What are the questions for that?
You could face trial, man. From what I've come to understand, you could face trial, and I don't know at what frequency it actually happens. And I've never been in the military, but I don't know at what frequency it happens, but I am sure it must happen from time to time.
Yeah.
But another thing about it too is where one of the policies that they have is that you're not supposed to fire blindly into a space, right? So imagine this. The officer in question fired into a patio window with curtains.
Yeah.
So he didn't have line of sight to be able to see who he was shooting at. He just fired.
Yeah.
And they say that there was even, the officer himself had blatant disregard for human life, and how he was just talking about the incident and what happened as if he didn't kill anybody, you know? And the sad thing is that's echoed by the court's decision, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like I'm having a hard time to understand, like, where was the loophole here, really?
From what I've read, it seems like a lot of lawyers are having a hard time with that too. A lot of people are scratching their heads and questioning, especially when you look at Daniel Cameron, who's the Attorney General of Kentucky. He apparently seems to be, a lot of people are like kind of scratching their heads and saying, well, what you're saying, what you're communicating doesn't make sense. People have said also that he's left parts out of the information he was supposed to communicate.
Yeah.
So there's that too, but I feel like that's a little bit of a cop-out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's tough, man.
Talk to your kids to get into the legal system, man. That's the only way we can see change, man. Like,
that's it.
You know, we just gotta start occupying these high level of governance. Otherwise, you know, I don't know how much protests we can do. How many buildings can we burn? You know, until our lives matter, you know?
That's it. Well, you know, you look at, we did our episode on what it means to be an ally, right? Yeah. And this past weekend, I saw an article, or a video actually, that was posted in an article related to it, where a police officer, he was on his bike, got off of his bike, and there's a guy who his form of protesting was lying down in the street.
Right.
And all the other cops were walking around him. All the other people would just walk around him. But one cop deliberately got off his bike. I don't think he was on his bike from what I could tell in the video. It was a little dark, so it was hard to see. But ran his bike over the guy's head and neck. So even if he was on his bike, obviously it'd be worse. But even off of his bike, to just run a bike that could weigh, probably 30, 40 pounds or something like that, or maybe less, or whatever, on somebody's head and neck is just ridiculous. That's total disregard for somebody. I mean, you look at like the Constitution, and that's one of the things they say. It's that you have the right to protest. You have the right. That's an American right, and people harp over what they're allowed to do as Americans, what they're not allowed to do. And then, this is, this is where we find ourselves,
Yeah.
So, all I can say is, my heart is broken for Breonna Taylor, and I don't feel she's received justice.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is just another thing that we, in a sad way, kind of have to accept. It's not right, and I'm not saying that what I mean by accept is that's like the settling answer,
Mm-hmm.
But
like,
yeah.
You mean like we have to accept the fact that the system is not designed for us? Like,
well,
do you mind expanding a little bit on that? Like, what do you mean by?
I would say that we have to accept that she didn't receive justice. The system has to change.
What do we do about it? What?
I think the route to take is erasure. And by that, what I mean is you have to start to position yourself to get the people who take these decisions, these poor decisions, out of their positions. I think, and this is something that's going to take a long time, but if you look at what's happening in the United States, I was listening to a radio show earlier, and they're talking about what's happening with the replacement of RBG, right?
Mm-hmm.
And essentially what's happening is that the conservative government is getting their way by having a majority conservative Supreme Court, right? By appointing, that's why they're pushing so hard to get somebody replaced. In normal circumstances, right, with the passing of RBG, there would have been, it should take something like 3 months to fill the position. And they're pushing to make it happen now so that even if he loses his election, he kind of has more people favoring him if he decides whatever he tries to do to maintain power, and he's even said that he's not going to give up power easily. That's a scary situation when politicians are saying that they're not going to give up their spot, even though there's a whole election process, there's a whole system in place that they should technically be following, and for them as politicians, imagine you have a nation that you're running, you want people to respect the law, but you yourself don't respect it.
Yeah.
It's kind of messed up.
Yeah.
So, so this is the world that we live in, and this is what I find difficult to have to cope with.
Yeah. We just gotta get on our knees and pray, and also ask our friends and family who live in the States to go vote.
Yeah, for real. They absolutely have to.
November, because this stuff is real,
Yeah, it is.
Things are actually going to get worse.
I agree. I totally agree. And we don't want to see that happen. We definitely want to see a better outcome, for people in our communities who are so heavily affected by what happens at that level. So that's all we can do,
Yeah.
So thank you. On that note, I think anything else that you wanted to
I'm
cover?
good.
You're good?
Thanks to those who joined today.
Yeah.
We apologize that today was like a mixture of two topics at the same time in one episode.
I tried for a third fun topic, Gift, and you just shut me down, man. My heart's broken, man, because I was hoping if anybody would understand.
Well, don't worry, Kay. We'll talk after the show. We'll make it up.
Just know I'm gonna keep springing things like that until we actually have a discussion on topic.
I know. I'm ready for you, bro. Bring it
Okay,
on.
all right.
Bring it on. I'm
Cool,
ready
man.
for you any day.
All right.
Shoot.
Sounds
Okay.
good. So thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you for being a part of the podcast. Thank you for supporting us as usual. And we look to touch base with you guys in another 2 weeks. So until then, we wish you all the best, everybody. Stay safe.
Stay healthy.
Yeah, and don't do anything silly, okay? Because we need this COVID thing to just get out of our systems.
Have the candies. Have the chips. Have the vinos.
Okay, stack up on them, right?
Stack up.
Sounds good.
Works out and everything.
That's it. I'm gonna come out of this trim and sexy. That's what I'm aiming for. Maybe I'll start an OnlyFans. All right, everybody, take care. Have a good night.
Good night.